Friends, today's video is part of an Altenew Certified Educator Video Hub, and I am excited to explore the design concept of a focal point, the visual anchor that captures the attention and draws the eye. To create a strong focal point, we can use one or several design tools at our disposal. For today's project, I chose to create a white-on-white shadow box where the focal point is the stag in the center. This element grabs attention first due to several design techniques, like central placement, because it sits close to the middle horizontally, which naturally anchors the entire composition. The natural framing using U-shape layouts, where the two large trees on the left and right act as brackets that guide your eyes inward towards the center. Then isolation and scale. This element stands out clearly because it is sitting on its own plane, separating itself from the smaller grazing fawn and the distant background trees. High contrast. The light is placed directly behind the deer, making its silhouette appear very dark, sharp, and distinct. As you can see, creating a strong focal point using only white paper and white die cuts relies entirely on shadow, depth, texture, and light instead of color. Since you are not using color to contrast the elements, you must manipulate how light hits the physical dimensions of the paper. That's why I created several layers that are sitting at different heights. Let's begin by creating an 11 by 8.5 by 1 inch shadow box frame. Trim two 8.5 by 5 inch rectangles, label them T for top and B for bottom. Trim two 5 by 11 inch rectangles, labeling them L for left and R for right. Reserve the leftover pieces for later. Score all 4 pieces at 1, 3, 4, and 6 inches along the 8.5-inch side. This will create 5 segments on each piece. On each rectangle, remove a narrow sliver from one long side to prevent buckling during assembly. This will become the gluing tab. Mount and fold all scored lines. To create the pillars, fold the piece so that one segment and the gluing tab are facing up, then fold the last segment over. The piece should fold completely flat. If you feel resistance, trim the gluing tab slightly narrower. On both the L and R rectangles, lightly trace a horizontal line 1 inch from each short edge. Along each pencil horizontal line, score only between the first and second scored lines. Repeat on the opposite side and for the second rectangle. Starting from one short edge of the L piece, cut a slit along the first perpendicular score line, stopping at the point where it intersects the pencil horizontal line. Next, cut a diagonal from the edge of the third score line to the point where the second score line intersects the pencil horizontal line. Repeat this cut on the opposite short edge and on the R piece. This will create a landing for the top and bottom pillars. Fold the piece in the opposite direction to ensure it lies completely flat without buckling. Then attach the gluing tab of each rectangle to the back of its first segment. For pillars L and R, fold the landing inward. Adhere the folded section to the inside of the pillars to create the landing for pieces T and B. If you prefer, you may trim away this parallelogram section. Next, place pillar T between pillars L and R and adhere it in place. Repeat for pillar B. Using a full sheet, score 1 inch from the border all the way around. Score a diagonal line from each corner of the outer edge to the nearest corner of the inner frame. Burnish all scored lines in the same direction. Next, die cut the background piece, center horizontally and about 1.5 inches down from the top. Adhere a 6 by 5 inches piece of vellum to the back of the negative die cut. Burnish the diagonal scored lines and adhere the triangle sides together. This creates a tray-style layer. Adhere the newly formed top triangular tabs to the sides of the tray and the bottom tabs to the base of the tray. Finally, insert the tray into the frame until it is flush with the back. Now let's create the snowbanks using the leftover strips. Score them at 1 inch and 10 inches. You can use the bottom of the die to trace a guide or simply freehand cut the snowbanks. Make sure one of them is taller than the other. Score the strips at 5/8 of an inch and 10 3/8 inches to create a spacer section. For a cleaner look, you can trim the top section of the spacer to match the front of the snowbank. Adhere the end tabs to the bottom front of the background layer and attach the inner tab to the sides of the frame. I added extra spacers in the center of the strip to help keep the layer from buckling. This will be attached on three sides, to the background, to the bottom of the frame, and to the back of the snowbank. Repeat the process for the second strip. And if you prefer the foreground snowbank to sit flush with the front of the frame, score the spacer tab of this strip at 1/2 inch instead of 5/8 of an inch. Next, attach the phone to the background and the stack center in the middle ground snowbank. Adhere a jack pine tree to each side as well as to the foreground snowbank. Allow the glue to dry completely. And then flip the piece over and glue the sides of the tray to the frame. Off camera, I created a few boxes to help keep the string of lights in place. You can either assemble the boxes completely, attach them, and then thread the fairy lights through them, or you can also attach one side of the boxes to the background, tuck the lights inside, and then glue the open end shut. I am going to do 2 rounds of lights around the frame, and I will gather the excess lights together to create a stronger spotlight behind the stag, keeping them in place again with another small box or a loop. Test the lights, and if you are happy, we can move to close the box. Please note that for this project, I mostly use liquid glue since we are working with a hollow frame. But you need to be careful not to leave too much in one section as it might show through the paper. Next, create a small pocket to keep the battery carrier accessible. Using a full sheet of paper, start at the bottom left corner, trace a 1-inch line parallel to the bottom edge, position 1 inch up from the edge. Cut a slit along this line to allow the wire to pass through. Lastly, adhere the battery pocket and the back panel in place. There you have it. We have created a strong focal point using only white paper and white die cuts, relying entirely on shadow, depth, texture, and light rather than color. I hope you give this idea a try, and don't forget to visit the rest of our talented friends and leave a comment for your chance to win a certificate to the Altenew store. Thank you for stopping by, and until next time, happy crafting!